What we won't be talking about is the whats. Because
very individual.
Because the what is up to your gut. Welcome everyone to another episode of Coaches on Couches.
Being slouches.
I am Coach Dale Sanford.
And I am Coach Bryant Funston. We are the co-founders of BPC Performance Coaching, where we specialize in helping time-crunched athletes optimize their busy schedules so they can maximize their athletic performance. You can find out more about BPC by going to buildpeakcompete.com. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook at Build Peak Compete. And all up on that Instagram at BPC Performance.
Sweet. So last time we had
more
the
humans,
race directors of Memphis 70.3 on the couch. If you haven't checked that out, you should. But we thought it'd be timely since we're about 6 weeks out from the race to talk about kind of an all-encompassing like race day fueling, hydration, kind of the whens, whys, and hows of fueling for a race like this. What we won't be talking about is the whats. Because
very individual.
Because the what is up to your gut.
The what depends on your gut.
The what is up to your gut. So
I need a shirt for that.
Everyone's stomach handles food differently. What you can do, and what we highly recommend you do, is one, practice. Practice everything. Even in some of these recommendations that we're going to be giving as far as calorie or grams of carbs amount and stuff like that, has to be practiced. But you can also train your gut. There is time still to train your gut to take in more calories, more carbohydrates, if you find that you're underdoing it. So we won't be telling you what to eat. Of course, I'm going to be giving examples of my own plan to help give examples, but it's no secret that we use Precision Hydration products, great partners of ours.
Yep.
So I'll be using those as examples. But again,
if you're a beginner and have never done like a half Iron event, hopefully the plan for this podcast here is to kind of walk you through from when the alarm clock goes off and when the alarm clock goes off, all the way to when you cross that finish line. Yeah.
So again, practice. You have to practice.
Yeah, everyone should be in their long volume block of their prep for this race.
Yep.
So perfect time to practice it, because what you can handle fine for a 2-hour event or 2 hours of training may not be the same hour 5, hour 6.
Yep.
Some folks are going to be out there 7-8 hours. So you need to practice during your longer volume days and see how your body responds, see how your tastes respond over the course of the day.
So let's jump on in.
Let's get it.
Alarm clock. Beep, 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 beep. Snooze. Alarm clock.
9 minutes later. Beep, beep. Why is the iPhone 9 minutes?
I don't know.
Beep, beep.
Because if you have to get up if you have to be somewhere in 1 minute, you now have time. So
4:30 alarm clock. Yeah. 7 o'clock race.
4 o'clock, 4:30, somewhere in there. You're going to get up and you're going to eat your main breakfast. All right. So you're eating, 2.5, 3 hours away from when you're going to start. We're considering it about a 7 a.m. start time. Here's where their minds get blown as far as the whole day fueling. You have to eat a pretty large breakfast, or not necessarily the breakfast itself, but from the time you get up and you start eating to the time you tiptoe into the water, you're going to be taking in somewhere probably between 800 and 1,000 calories, or you should be, because you're trying to top off any glycogen stores that you that are not topped off, and then also kind of continuously have a little bit more fuel in the tank for that swim.
Exactly.
Because you're always fueling for the next event of the day, or the next part of the day. So your breakfast and what you eat prior fuels you for the swim, and then even into the early parts of the bike.
Yep.
So we're topping off.
So if you eat,
and we're pre-eating.
For the person who eats very little or nothing, if you think about it, your last meal was dinner time, say 7 o'clock. Now you're 12 hours fasted going into the start of the swim. And then the time you're going to spend on the swim, you're going to be in the hurt locker.
You're going to have some hunger pangs.
Pretty darn quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
stopping for some Taco Bell along the way.
Yeah, I know. You and I don't think we can go more than 2.5, 3 hours without eating, without
it's tough
being hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
So just imagine you eat at 4 or 4:30, and then you don't get in the water till 7, 7:30. Sometimes people don't get in the water till after 8 o'clock because of the way the rolling starts happen.
Yeah.
So if you know that you're going to be a later start time, you adjust the start of your first meal and your last snack before starting.
Yep.
So again, I'm trying to take in 1,000 calories before I get in the water. And so basically that happens around probably 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm taking, mine is generally a peanut butter and jelly bagel. It's probably around 600 calories between the bagel, the peanut butter and jelly.
Yep.
So that's a good start. So 600 calories there. You get your stuff together, you head to the race. You're setting up your transition area. Generally, after I'm done setting up, before any type of a warm up or anything like that, I'll take in another a Cliff Bar or something. It's 240 calories. Oh. So now I'm over 800, 850 ish, calorie wise, and that'll be again hour before start time maybe.
Yep.
So you're getting in that that's my last solid food. And then probably 30 minutes before I'm about to get in the water, sometimes even later, I'll push it 15 minutes before, I'll take a gel, which is another 120 calories. So in total, I'm 960 or something calories
close to that 1,000
deep
mark. Yep.
Before I even started the race. And that way I know I'm topped off and ready.
Yep.
So if you've never practiced eating that much, start. Practice it now. Because while the start is stressful, the start of a half iron distance race is not hard. It shouldn't be. You shouldn't go out like a cannon in a race like this. So you can tolerate eating a little bit more closer to the start. And we've done nutrition timing podcasts and all that stuff. So I don't worry about getting an upset stomach in the water when I ate something an hour ago and then I ate a gel, which is probably the easiest thing to digest.
And that's something you should practice before your next swim.
Yep.
Play around with that meal timing and what you're going to have and see how the body responds in the pool, where it's obviously a much safer environment than...
Probably the biggest mistake people make is not eating enough before a big race like this.
Yep.
And that's what I say.
When you know you're going to go into a deficit, few people are going to eat enough over the course of the race to offset the amount of calories they're expending. And if you're out there for 5 hours and you're running a 300, 400, 500 calorie deficit per hour, even with fueling, I mean, that adds up to 2,500 plus calories.
Oh yeah.
Of a deficit. I mean, that's something that's going to impact performance. So if you can start with that buffer, with the well topped off, I mean, you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of the person who's going into it with very minimal.
And this same goes for hydration. So I get up, I usually take a preload before, which is, I use our Precision Hydration 1500 product, 16 ounces of that first thing in the morning with that bagel. And then I'll take a whole nother liter bottle with me to the race to sip on all the way up to the start, pretty much. Until I got to get rid of the bottle. Big
recommendation, regardless of the sport you're doing, have that separate bottle that's got the electrolytes in it that you can sip on from when you wake up or after you've done your preload until you get to the start. Have it be a separate bottle too, so you're not playing around with, refilling it. It's one you can dump.
And I in those bottles, I don't put calories. Those are tablets, so pretty much calorie free, so that I'm not just like, because I want to be getting in the fluids, I don't want to just keep pouring in calories, tons of calories leading right up to the start.
Yeah.
I want that to be very controlled, which is it's a little bit more of a debate, but we're very much on the side of separating calories and fluid electrolyte in the bottle, calories from other sources, carbohydrates from other sources. Yep. I do mix that a little bit, but on the very low end of very low end calories in the bottles. Yep. And I'll go more into that. But for the most part, it's separated, because if it's hot and you need more fluid, you cannot physically get the fluid you need without taking in all the calories that go with it.
Yeah, if each bottle's 300 calories and you're having to drink two bottles, you're at 600 calories in an hour.
And if you want gut rot,
that's a lot.
Go that route.
That's a lot. Yeah.
And we've talked about this before. There are times, and part of my plan is to drink close to a liter an hour on the bike, and at that level, like with calories, a liter in some of the drink mixes out there could be 600 calories, and I don't know anyone who can tolerate 600 calories an hour at intensity, at some sort of moderate intensity. Yeah. So
for the person that's never been to the kind of the setup of their transition, what do they need to bring? So you just said 2 liters per hour is about what you're targeting.
Yeah.
So your bike, obviously you can have tons of cages on a
your bike's already going to be in transition.
So
you're going to be checked in. So I usually I have a front bottle that I use that's a liter. I got the biggest one I could find that was like Aero. Yep. Some of the other big ones, like some of the speed fill systems are pretty big. You can put like close to a liter in those. But you can pile cages on your bike if you need a ton of fluid. And you can also pull off the course. The challenge with pulling off the course is, if you've never used the stuff that's on course electrolyte wise, I wouldn't recommend messing with it. And it may be totally under concentrated for what you need. It may be way too high in carbohydrates. I would rather, if you're going to pull off the course, you're better off taking mix or tablets or whatever with you, putting them on your bike somewhere, and then grabbing water and mixing it on the fly. Yep. For your stomach's sake, that's my recommendation.
Yeah, no surprises.
But when you get there, your bike's already there. I leave my front bottle on. I basically have my warm-up bottle, which is about a liter of electrolyte fluid. I have the liter bottle that I'm going to dump in my front bottle. So that's already mixed. Pop that in there. And then I'll have one other liter bottle on my bike. So we've talked about this before. We use the Zeffel Magnums, which are a 32-ounce bottle that fit in a normal bottle cage. Yep. So I'm not a huge fan of having bottles behind me, because I hate having to sit up to get to them. Mm-hmm. So by carrying the Zeffel, you basically have 2 smaller bottles in one big bottle, and it's really easy to grab it and pop it into the front bottle, transition it to the front bottle. So granted, like personally, I'm shooting for somewhere around 2.5 hours, maybe under 2.5 hours on the bike. But like in that, so two liters is probably about enough for me for that distance or for that duration. Now, if I have a problem and I'm out there longer, I may run into an issue on that. But I can always pull off the course and get fluids that way. Yep. But if you're going to be out there, you can always add cages. A lot of frames can take 2 cages inside the triangle. You can get at least 2 on the back usually. So you have the option to carry everything you need. or you can do what some people do and carry your first major load of fluids, mix to your preference, and then pull off the course. Pull the water off the course, mix it on the fly, and keep going. Yep. But make sure that your first, whatever bottles you have on your bike are all electrolytes. Yep. Like to put water on the bike, you're just diluting whatever you take in worth of electrolytes. And in a long day, when it could conceivably be pretty hot and you're going to be turning over a lot of fluid, you need as much electrolyte as you possibly can. Now, there are other alternatives. You can obviously take capsules, base salt, some stuff like that you can supplement sodium with. Yeah. But my only problem with base salts is that it's totally unpredictable about how much sodium you get in that little salt lick thing. And then the capsules are great, but I'll go into later. I usually take those on the run because it's harder to carry all your fluids with you. So I'll usually go to those on the run, and I don't really want to take in like 15, 20 capsules in a day. So just bring everything you can on the bike mixed. So fluid-wise, put it on the bike. Fueling-wise, you're setting up your transition area. You have a few options. You can do, like what I do is I just tape all my gels to the top tube. I'll probably put close to 6 gels.
It's kind of like the Rambo holster.
Absolutely.
Just on the top tube.
Yeah, it's like a Rambo holster. Base. Yeah. So
grenade.
Yeah, yeah. So you just tape them to the top tube, and you can rip them off as you go, and take them on the fly, store them in a pocket, whatever.
So you're going to go for how many? Like going specifics now for you.
So on the bike,
grams of carbohydrates.
So on the bike, I'm shooting for somewhere between 60 and 90 grams of carbs per hour. I'm hoping to get close to 90. That's what I've been kind of training with.
Again, train and test.
So what that looks like basically is the liter of fluid that I have does have about 30 grams of carbs in it, which isn't a ton for that much fluid.
Yeah, essentially you could drink 3 liters and still be at the 360 calories, 360 calories.
So there's 30 grams in there, and I'll probably take 2 gels an hour, maybe, if it's, not to break it up, like, because if you break it up, the bike's gonna be over 2 hours. I'm not gonna break 2 hours on the bike.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be out there a little bit over 2 hours. So I'll probably end up taking, like, you consider you get out of the water, you're not eating in the water. Yeah. You haven't eaten now for 30 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour 10 if you're right at the cutoff. So that's a long time to go without, to be exercising without fuel. Yep. So I generally eat almost immediately when I get on the bike. So get on the bike, I'll pop a gel immediately, start hydrating. Yep. Sometimes you pop a gel in T2 or T1 if you really want to. But I have it all on the bike. It's already there. Yep. If you need more, your options are, if you're not a gel person, if you do bars and stuff, you can, I usually recommend people do that on the front half of the bike and go to more gels and stuff like that later. But it's all on the bike. And your other option basically is you come out of, you get in T1 and you just pile your pockets full of your food. Thanks. If you have your suit on or your top, pile your pockets full of food and then get on with it.
Do you pre-open yours? If you were to be using bars?
If it were bars, absolutely. Yeah. If it's bars or something like that, they're already pre-opened, so I don't have to mess with that. It's that's the reason a lot of times I don't use them, is because I don't want to mess with having to open them like an arrow, and it's just kind of a mess. Half the time I end up dropping half of it. So on a half iron, I still stick with pretty much gels. I can tolerate them for 4 to 5 hours with no problems.
No gastrointestinal issues.
So again, liter of fluid, 2 gels ish an hour, and that's right at that 90 grams of carbs.
Yep.
I might be a little under, but it's not a big deal. But that's the recommendation right now. That the big recommendation that's going around for people who are doing exercise in excess of 4 hours is getting that 60 to 90 gram of carb, that range. So, and that, right now the science is saying that's not relative to your experience level, your size, your gender. Like, that's the recommendation right now for pretty much everyone. Now, there's a lot of science going on in fueling right now, with the whole like Super Sapiens thing coming out and people monitoring their blood glucose. That kind of thing may totally flip this on its head. But as of right now, that's what, if you look at most of like even like the all the pro men and women in half and full Ironman, they're all kind of targeting that 90 grams of carbs per hour, even at their speeds. So they're not out there as long as the majority of us, and they're still trying to bring in as much carb as possible. So just goes to show you, the more you can tolerate, goes back to training your gut, the better performance you're gonna withstand and not risk that fall off in the next leg.
From a deficit,
Don't forget, we are fueling for the next leg. So I am thinking to myself, I'm over fueling almost on the bike, so that I don't actually have to eat quite as much on the run, because it's so much harder to consume calories.
And that's a big thing. And most people, especially if you maybe aren't doing a longer brick, or you're going out and doing your long run that may be 2 hours long, or possibly longer, but you can kind of get through an hour 45. You can get to a 2 hour run without fueling a ton. So you may be deceived a little bit in how you're going to feel on your run, and what sort of fueling you're going to need to try to do during your run if you haven't done that distance, that duration on the back end of what could be 3, 4, 5 hours of exercise already. So you need to practice for sure what you can tolerate on the run.
Yeah, and we'll get to the run here in just a second.
So going back to transit, or I guess we'll wait till you go to the run.
Well, we're still on the bike. We're still there.
On the bike.
Yeah. So the one thing I will say, like, I'm telling you, like, we need as much electrolyte as possible, that sort of thing. Keep electrolytes in all your bottles, if at all possible, especially if it's hot. But if your stomach does start to turn on you, you could be either consuming too many calories, or you could be overhydrating. So that's where, like, you need to be a little flexible in this plan, and not just think, well, if I don't take in these calories at this time, that this whole thing's going.
Yeah, you're not
south.
a robot. You can't be a robot.
Yeah. So you have to, like, if your stomach starts to sour, go south or whatever, you can go to plain water. Grab a bottle from an aid station. Usually they're about every 15 miles. So grab a bottle from an aid station, sip on some plain water, reduce your carb intake for a little bit, see if you can get your stomach back normal, so that you can start to take calories back in. And then start introducing those your normal plan back into it. Generally speaking, if you've trained with it, you won't have a problem. Where people get problems is they try to take in too much at one time. So, like, I'm not gonna, like, drink an entire liter and take 2 gels, like, at the front half of every hour. Like, this is very spread out. Like, and a lot of times when I'm like drinking, like, it's just big sips. Like, it's not even on a timer. It's just, I get thirsty, big sips. Like, I just take bigger sips every time I drink versus just sipping, like small sips, and you get barely anything in there. And then sometimes when I'm taking a gel, I'll, like, take half of it and then, like, ride for a couple minutes and then take the other half, just so it's not the whole gel just, going in. You got 30 grams of carbs piling into your stomach right away. So separate it. So basically, I'm going to probably eat within 15 minutes of starting the bike, and then I'm going to eat probably every 30 minutes after that until I, get off the bike.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that we are eating enough, but we have to be also flexible if our stomach decides that on this day it doesn't want anymore.
So will you ever take, so you're going gel playing here. Will you ever take, I know you like the honey stinger waffles. Like, will you ever go, okay, I'm going to just take one solid thing with me just in case my stomach's not jiving on the gels, or do you pretty much like, I'm all in?
I mean, I haven't had any problems with them yet, and I've used them in higher intensity races. Honestly, there are very few gels that I can take on the run.
Okay.
And I took the Performance Fuel gels to nationals and took gels on the Olympic distance run and had zero problems, which is pretty abnormal for me. So I don't have any problems with doing it. I do love the honey stinger waffles, and I take them on longer rides, and I fueled an entire 50K basically with waffles. So
I thought you were going to say your breakfast is 5 of those waffles with syrup on them.
Yeah, I stack them up, cut them with a knife. Yeah. Occasionally I will, like, that'll be like maybe like not the very first thing I eat, because a lot of times coming out of the water in T1 your heart rate's a little jacked up, but maybe like within the first 20 miles of the bike, I'll eat one. It's just it's more of a convenience thing, really. I don't like having to mess with the packaging and stuff like that. But, if you pre-open it, yeah, sure. I mean, they go down pretty easy. So, but I'm all about simplicity, and I don't really get, in an event like this, I'm so focused on my effort and everything else. I need the fueling plan to be like super simple, so that I don't want to have to make a decision. I don't should I eat the honey stinger waffle now or should I wait? Nope. All I have is time? No. Oh, what? All I have is this giant buffet of gels. Yeah. Okay, that's it. That's all we got.
Yeah.
But again, I've trained with it, so it's not abnormal at all.
Yep.
So you're getting off the bike. You've taken in a lot of calories on the bike. We're getting into T2, and basically this is kind of where the carrying stuff gets a little bit harder. And you could be out there for 3+ hours on this half marathon, so you're going to need a lot of fluid, a lot of electrolyte, and a decent amount of calories. And so my plan personally is to, I get into T2 and I load my pockets with all of the fuel that I'm going to need. More gels. So I don't.
Do you set that in your hat, or where do you have that set up in your transition?
Yeah, if it's a normal transition where you've set up all your own stuff, basically what I do is I put all the gels in my hat, and then the first thing, you rack your bike, take your helmet off, and then basically I'll put my shoes on, and then I pick up my hat with this giant, just put my hat on with all the gels in it. I pick my hat up with basically my race belt and my sunglasses and the gels, and then as I'm running out of T2, I'll start popping them in my pockets.
Yep.
Now there are a bunch of race belts you can get that you can literally it looks like shotgun shells. Rambo belt. You can pile I don't know, I think I've seen up to 8 gels on these belts, and they're already put in there. So you just throw the belt on, which is pretty convenient. I'm considering going that route.
Okay.
But you basically just have to shove your pockets full of your food, and they will have stuff out on course. But again, unless you've trained with what they have on course, and right now on this day, they usually have Red Bull, Coke, some bar,
Purple stuff.
Martine gels right now. Martine gels, and if you've never had them, probably, I mean, they work for a lot of people. I've heard good things about them, but I've never used them, so I'm not going to just try it on race day. So I'm going to carry all the gels I need for the run. And the big thing that I do that a lot of people don't, some people are like, well, what do I do about my electrolytes? I'm going to take a large bottle out of T2 pre-mixed with my electrolyte solution that fits how I sweat, and I'm going to drink that until it's gone. I'm going to carry it and run with it. Like, yeah, I run with a bottle. It's not that big a deal. Run with a bottle and drink it to thirst until it's gone. Usually at that point, I'm at least halfway to 8 miles into this run.
Yeah.
And at that point, ditch the bottle and I go to basically water and capsules. So I'll take sweat salt capsules, 250 milligrams a piece. I'll pop one about every 15 minutes. And, I might have to take, at that point, I might have to take up to 5 of them or something like that by the end of the run or whatever. So it's pretty easy. I mean, that makes it super simple. One capsule, basically every other aid station or something, capsule, water, and I'll take water at each aid station too.
Yeah.
And I'm still eating gels. Occasionally, if I'm really feel like I'm on the downslope, I'll start taking Red Bull or Coke or whatever. It's just sugar, basically. At that point in the race, later in the race, if the gels aren't working for me anymore, like just mentally or whatever, I just go straight to Coke and Red Bull, straight sugar, basically.
Now, are you still shooting for, you're doing what? The 60
I'm
to 90
shooting for 90 on the bike, but not on the run. There's no way.
On the run, are you going to go like 1 gel per hour?
On the run, I'm going to basically cut it by about a third. So I'm going to shoot for 60 grams in probably the first hour of the run. And then the second hour, it'll probably drop to 30.
Gotcha.
I start to like cut it off just to, I'll fuel up to like the last 3 miles, basically. So when I'm about, 20 minutes from finishing, 20 to 25 minutes from finishing, I'll stop kind of eating and just keep drinking, unless I'm feeling tanked, and then it's all hands on deck. Give me whatever you got, that sort of thing. Like, you got to be flexible, but like I've found that my stomach, the 90 grams of carbs per hour at that intensity, not an option. So 30 to 60 grams per hour, again, usually 60 in the first hour, and then it drops to 30 for the rest of the race. So that's kind of my plan. Again, bring the bottle out of T2, drink until it's gone. That way I can take fluids whenever I need it. I can take my gels whenever I need it. And really the nice thing with the pH gels is you don't really need water with them. They go down really quick. But I mean, that's kind of my process. And there's not like on the bike, you can always like set a timer or something like that on the bike to remind you. Cause look, I have coached so many people who go into a race as fit as they can be. And on race day, they forget. They forget to eat and drink. And it's the craziest thing, but it happens all the time. It's just the atmosphere takes over. Like, you're so jazzed up, adrenaline. One good thing, I was watching a video the other day, and they were talking about how adrenaline can basically be an appetite suppressant. And so when you get out of T1, you get on the bike, you're so jazzed up, like you won't even think about being hungry. But you need to start eating immediately.
Eating for the run.
You're eating for the run. You haven't eaten in a while.
You're not eating to get through the next 45 minutes.
They're not going to have snacks on the kayaks in the water. So you need to start eating early. but you can set a timer, remind yourself every 30, or like, use maybe some of the mile markers or something like that out on course to remind you to eat.
Yep.
Whatever it takes to remind you to separate out your calories too. So a little bit more frequent,
Yep.
lower volumes. But I mean, that's one of the big problems is the big mistakes.
You got to manage your
morning
race.
Breakfast.
Yep.
Nobody eats enough. People don't eat enough.
Yep.
And then people forget. They literally just forget to eat, at least start eating early enough on the bike, and they get 20 miles into the bike and now they haven't eaten for like an hour and 45 minutes. And wouldn't you know it, 2 hours at moderate intensity is about where people start bonking.
Yeah.
And that's where it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, oh, I am hungry. And then it's too late.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then if you try to play catch up, now you're overdoing the carbs and your stomach can't process all that.
Exactly.
You turn your stomach, and then it's a downhill slope from there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the simplest carb, PH has a great carb calculator now that you can go on their website.
PH being Precision Hydration.
Yeah, precisionhydration.com. You can go and check out their carb calculator. And I guarantee you, if you put in that you're doing triathlon and you're going to be out there for 5 hours, it's going to recommend 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour. So that is the recommendation. And I've seen, and they're not just the only ones spouting that information.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Time and time again, you just listening to other people talk, other nutritionists and sports, high level sports dietitians and stuff like that. And that's the recommendation that Coach Casey put out the last time we had a nutrition based podcast, was that 30, 60, 90. You start out at 30 grams of carbs per hour, push it up to 60 if once you can tolerate it. We're talking about training your gut again. And then if you can get up to that 90 grams of carbs per hour, that's kind of what's shown to sustain endurance performance the best.
The longest, yeah.
So it takes a little math, takes a little practice, but overall, it's the fourth sport, and you don't want to kill your race by under fueling or under hydrating. It can easily take the best fitness and crush it.
Yeah, you can turn the lights off pretty quick.
But it's also not that hard. It's not that hard. People overcomplicate the crap out of this. And I think it is literally as simple as find the electrolyte drink you need, find the electrolyte level you need, keep it in your bottles.
Yep.
Drink it to thirst.
Yep.
Right? And then how long are you out there? Okay, 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour. What can you put in your face over an hour to hit those marks, and then practice it.
Yep.
I mean, and then once it works, don't change it.
Until it doesn't work.
Don't change it until it doesn't work.
Yep.
And don't overthink it, because if you're finishing races and workouts with energy, and it's not like a workout that is like the longest or hardest and longest you've been ever, then you're doing pretty good. Now, that's not to say that you're going to fit because of your nutrition and hydration plan that you're going to finish a 70.3 feeling like $1 million.
You shouldn't.
No, it's not. There's going to be dark times out there. So, it's not all going to be, rainbows and roses the whole time, but you don't want to totally tank energy wise.
Long distance stuff, fueling, pacing. If you don't go out guns a-blazing and blow yourself up because of that, and if you stay on top of your nutrition from the get-go, from when that alarm goes off in the morning, both times, then those are the two keys of a successful race.
Pacing is and this is a whole nother podcast, pacing is one of the other big mistakes that people make on
Goes
screwing
back
up
to that
their
adrenaline
fueling.
The adrenaline you just talked about,
Yeah,
where
because
you're not feeling it.
You're not feeling it. You don't eat enough, or you're going out so hard that or so much harder than you've been training that your fueling plan no longer works because your stomach isn't digesting anything because you're going too hard.
Heart rate's pegged. Yeah.
Yeah. So pacing is important. Something like this, like for the average person, shouldn't feel like a threshold effort. It's not an Olympic distance triathlon.
No. You can always ramp later.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking, this is like a 70 to 80% effort most of the way. This is not 90 plus.
No.
So,
build into your
build
event.
into it.
Yeah, for sure. What I always do wrong is like I get to where it's like an hour to go, and if I've been out there for 4 hours, 3 hours, I'm like, only an hour left, and then I stop fueling, and then I get to that 30 minutes to go.
Yeah, and inevitably, the later in the race, your intensity level is not going to go down.
Yeah, your heart rate.
Even if you're steady, if you're steady, your intensity level is not going to drop.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be burning less calories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I just get lazy late. So don't get lazy late. Stay focused throughout.
Like I said, I stopped fueling like at the earliest 3 miles to go. And then if I feel like I've got energy, like that's where personally at 3 miles to go, that's where I'm going to probably really amp up the last part of the run. So the intensity is going to climb. So I don't want to I want to fuel in before, so I don't have to do it and risk being, getting gut rot or something like that when I'm pushing it.
Yeah.
So, if I was going to go steady all the way into the finish, then I just keep eating. But generally speaking, you better finish strong.
Kick.
Get that kick
going. All right.
I think that covers it. So if you have any questions on this kind of thing, you can always send us an email. Again, check out our friends at Precision Hydration and see what they've got going on to help you simplify your fueling and hydration plans. We appreciate everyone hanging out, listening, watching, and we'll catch you guys next time. Adios.
Peace.